hmm I was just reading about Perugia. How that elementary schooling was first made compulsory. Yeah. With the community paying the tuition of the poor. Oh, the Perusian School Code of 1763. Yeah. Made attendance mandatory for children between the ages of 5 and 13 years of age. Oh. You know, um, this 12 million newcomers entered the United States between 1890 and 1910. Yes. And then there was the principle of compulsory schooling was accepted by the United States and Canada by 1918. Yes. Now, somebody has compelled my sons to go to the wrong grades for the last 7 years and 9 months. Yes. Because some corrupt individuals didn't recognize the authority of the United Nations. Yes. Could you get me all the aptitude tests of each and every pupil in all elementary, junior high, and high schools? Yes. See, quite often we introduce what is known as testing. Poop. And as I remember it, it is compulsory that students, yes, have to do this testing. State of Washington. Now, I would say being in the wrong grades, yes. My sons have had a significant advantage over the other students. Yes. Because they're graduating after the age of 19 years old. Yeah. Now, if I looked at the curve and how it is skewed considering their actual age, yes, it could be that all the testing of each and every school of the United States would have to be sued to have removed right now. Because it's not fair to the other students to have to test against those that are not of the same age group while in the same grades. Now, the National Defense Education Act was passed by Congress in 1958. Yes. The authority to spend $1 billion over a 4 year period for federal aid to education. Now, Congress left control over education where it had been traditionally in the individual states and local communities. Mm. But then there was some higher education amendments of 1966 further broadened the federal aid. Yes. This came from the federal treasury. In the late 1960s, an estimated one-eighth of the money spent for education in the United States came from the federal treasury. Yeah. About 30% of the U.S. population was occupied with education as student, teacher, or administrator. Ooh. Now, let's say the federal treasury has been spending approximately one-eighth the money for education. Yeah. Why don't you get me the actual treasury dollars that are being spent to support education? While at the same time, the U.S. Treasury has knowledge that students are not in the right grades. Now, I'm thinking, yes, as a parent, that I might sue the United States Treasury, yes, for taking over, right, all of the debt for support for children. Yes, if you're in arrears more than 120 days. And then there was this big question about those that owe fines to various agencies and departments. Yes, if you were in arrears more than 180 days, Big Jim, poop! I would think that they could attach your assets and sell them, yes, to satisfy any debts against any agency, department, or employer of the United States. Now, I know Big Jim said, well, I'm 3 years late, no big deal, poop. But I'm of the mindset that I would sue, yes, and imprison right now, Big Jim. Why don't you get me all the fines of the EPA? Why don't you get me the fines of reclamation? Why don't you get me the fines of those that are corporations and individuals that thought, well, this is how it works in government, okay? You tell them you're going to pay it, then you don't, and then you just kind of sit on the money for a few years, and eventually they hoop and holler over the various problems and so on and so forth. See, the way I see the Treasury is, yes, if any government department or agency issues a fine, and you agree to the terms of the fine because of due process, and then you don't pay, they immediately, after 180 days, fiscal services of the United States Treasury, they attach your assets and they sell them right under you. Ouch. Now, my thought is, yes, if the Treasury, yes, is not obligating the enforcement of fines, yes, 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 then it's as if the fine doesn't exist. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk about me not paying child support. Yes. But I informed them that I didn't get a copy of the dissolution of marriage. No. Mm-mm. I didn't get a copy of the child support order. No. I didn't get notice of court hearings. No. But then the state says, well, you have to pay even though you didn't get notice of any court hearings. That'd be like the state issuing fines, yes, where corporations and individuals refuse to pay within 180 days, where the Treasury would step in and they'd seize all their assets and they'd sell all the assets at auction. Now I'm going to need to know every fine of every state of the United States where it's the actual property. See, I sent you a screen print. Do you remember that? Ooh, it's one of these laws where when I want to know every fine of every state, every department of every state. Yes, because the way I do things, right? I sue and imprison. I actually take the assets within 180 days for all those fines. I sell them off, auction, pooch, and then you satisfy every fine right now, Big Jim. Now, I've been threatened with imprisonment because of. Let's go ahead.